Welcome to Sighted to Sightless, a podcast that takes a candid look, pardon the pun, at the life of someone who is sighted and then went to sightless. With me today is Clint.
Hello, everyone, again.
And I am Richard.
So, in the previous podcast, you learned a little bit about Richard, aka Bubba, and some experiences that he has had, or an experience that he has had and been a part of. You learned a little bit about me as being the sighted one. So, today we're actually going to dive a little bit deeper into some things. So, the first thing we're going to kind of take a look at is how Bubba drove after he was sightless.
Well, let's just say a lot of alcohol was involved. Um, and it's one of the things that I miss most, if not what I miss most about, having lost my sight, is the ability to drive legally. A couple of funny stories about that is I was with my friend Corey, and it's back whenever I drank a lot. I mean, like a lot. And it was probably a case or so into the night, and he said, "Let's get you to driving." So we hopped on his four-wheeler. He said, "I'm going to walk beside you, and you just press the gas, and I'll guide the four-wheeler." All right. So I get on there, and I hit the gas barely, and he's walking beside me, guiding it, kinda. And then I get rather ballsy, I guess, and hit the gas. Next thing you know, Corey is yelling at me. And I'm going over a ditch or through a ditch, over a road, and almost hit like a concrete barrier kind of deal. And barely stopped in time. So that's probably my most memorable driving experience. But there's something about the Georgia Department of Motor Vehicles. Isn't that who you get your license through?
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe so.
Went there to get my ID made, and the lady said, "Oh, you can just renew your license." "No, ma'am, I just want to get my ID." "Oh no, you can just get your license renewed." "Ma'am, I'm blind." "Well, you can still get your license renewed." "Ma'am, I can't see anything." "But we can just renew your license. It'll be easier." And I stood there about 30 seconds. And this whole conversation goes on for minutes and minutes. And I finally say to the lady, she goes, "But it's so much easier just to get your license renewed." And I say, "Ma'am, do you know that shirt that you're wearing?" "Oh, yes, sir, I do." "I can't tell you what color it is." "Why not?" "Because I can't see." "Oh, you just need an ID then. Well, you don't need to renew your license." "Ma'am, this is what I've been telling you for like the past 30 minutes. I swear it was 30 minutes. And she said, "Well, we need to renew your picture then." "Okay, no problem." She said, "Go stand behind that yellow line right there." Um, where's the line at?" "Oh, it's right over there." And I just turned to Mama and say, "Can you carry me to the line, please? I'm ready to get out of here because this place is ran by idiots." So I finally got the ID made, and it has been expired for years now because it's such a job just to get it renewed that it doesn't make sense. And I have a passport card, and that's a federal thing. So it just seems easier for me just to keep that than to try to renew the license again.
So basically, a couple of things key takeaways there. Number one, Corey, you're a great friend. I want you to know that. I have not let him drive yet. I just want that to be known. Not sure if I ever will, but I will carry him anywhere he needs to go.
But we have drank together.
Um, Second thing is, you know, the lady at the I call it the DMV. It was a rough situation for you to be in. I know her not understanding that you were blind, but it was actually, now that I look back on, and all the stories that we have together and everything that I've seen, knowing that she treated you like a normal human being and she didn't see you any different.
No, she was an idiot.
No, I take it a little different. I think that she was like treating you like somebody normal. So I think that was pretty cool of her. But at the same time, you did tell her probably about what, 10, 12 times you said
Something like that, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that you quit keeping count of after so long.
And then I know your mom had to be sitting there just like dying laughing.
Yeah.
I thought she loved that. So that's just, I could just imagine your mom sitting there listening to this lady saying that to you.
And mama knowing how I am, I was very proud of myself for not letting my temper get the best of me.
That's right. That's right. So, so this is actually a listener question.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving into here, and this comes from Miss Shannon. She says, "What is the thing that you miss most about being able to see?"
I say driving, for a couple of different reasons. Whenever I could see to drive, I didn't have to ask anybody to carry me anywhere. I could get behind the wheel, just go and just ride to release steam, or if I wanted to go rent a movie, because back then we had movie gallery and other movie rental places, so I can just go rent a movie if I wanted to. That's back before the whole streaming first.
I was about to say you showing your age now, Bubba.
Well, yeah, look at my face. I'm showing my age. So I could go to town, rent video games. I mean, that's back during PlayStation 1 days. And what are they up to now? 19 PS 19s or something? I mean, you remember the original PlayStation? You put a game in, loading,
Mm-hmm.
loading. I mean, you could be playing like a game, and when it started loading, you had time to go to the bathroom, come back, and it might be through loading, it might not be, but I miss being able to drive just to get out, to go, true independence there. And I also miss playing video games. I wasn't into video games like people are nowadays, or even back then. I'd play like sports games, such as the last game I actually rented was I think it was Contender.
Okay.
I think was the name of it. It was a boxing game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually the game that was in my console whenever I had the wreck, so I never did get to carry it back. And I guess you could say that I stole it, but not on purpose. And also in the car was, you remember the first NFL Blitz?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they still make them or not, but my best friend at the time, his brother had let me borrow it, and I let him borrow NASCAR 98. And he never did get that game back either. So I'm a thief. I stole 2 games.
He's admitting it right here.
Yeah. And Matthew, well, I guess it goes by Matthew. I always knew him as Matt. I remember him asking me one time, "Are you ever going to give that game back?" Well, I don't think you're going to get it back now. But not that you can play it anymore anyway. But he just celebrated a birthday, so happy birthday, Matt, if you're listening
Happy
to this.
birthday.
And if you're not listening to it, why the heck not? But driving and video games, I mean, I miss seeing what people look like, granted. But then again, I'm very thankful sometimes that I can't see what people look like, especially like going to wild adventures. Some people shouldn't be wearing certain types of bathing suits. And I'm not talking about me and my banana hammock. I think I'm a perfectly good grape smuggler. But things like that, and I'm sure hanging around me, you don't take sight for granted anymore, but it's one of those things that you think it's just always going to be there because it's involuntary that you see.
So do you think you miss driving because of the independence of just going on your own, or do you just miss driving because you're sitting there just behind the wheel and sometimes at day, sometimes at night, seeing the sky or just the good weather, the cool weather, the wind hitting your face, do you miss that or do you just miss the independence of driving?
Really kind of all of them combined. Because I've been driving since I was probably 5 years old. Tractor because grew up on a farm and I did a lot of tractor work, harrowing, spraying, stuff like that. I miss that aspect of the independence of the feel of the air on your face, the being able to roll the window down and sitting here and talking with you about this. I'm not saying that I miss the power of being behind a wheel, but at the same time, I miss the control of my hands are on the wheel, my foot is on the pedals. I'm taking my life into my own hands driving. I'm not saying that God's not in control because he is no matter what, but to know that if I have a wreck, it's either because somebody did something and I couldn't react or, whatever you want to say there, but knowing that I'm in control of my destiny to an extent, it's really hard. Like even for me now getting in the vehicle with y'all or Cody or somebody else, there's a part of me that still wishes like I wish I was in control of the vehicle because I'm in control of what happens to me again to a certain extent.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. Especially I think we touched on this a little bit on the last episode too. There's got to be a certain level of trust that you're putting in someone because you can't see.
Yeah.
So you don't, I mean, no puns intended or anything, but you don't see anything coming. So you don't know at all what happens if somebody slams on the brakes. The only thing you're going to do is feel it. You're not going to know why they did it or why they're doing it actively. You just know that, I mean, here we go. The brakes are getting hit hard. What's going to happen?
And if you'll ever watch me when that happens, well, I'd rather your eyes be on the roads. But
I was going to say,
I do tense up, because I'm not in control. I can't see what's happening, whether we're an inch away from getting hit or 10 feet away from getting hit. I don't know until either y'all tell me or something like that happens till y'all let me know what's going on. And to me, that's extremely difficult. Not that I don't feel safe with y'all or anybody that I ride with, because I won't ride with somebody unless I trust them enough to get behind the wheel. Like Shannon has trouble driving at night. I'll still get in the vehicle with her because I trust her, but at the same time, it's like the stress level has increased some because I know she has talked to me about driving at night and how she has difficulty with it. So let's just say I'm constantly in prayer. God's on speed dial, like, dear Lord, baby Jesus, in the manger, be with us, keep us safe, and keep me safe. But it's a very tense moment until after the situation has passed or we've gotten to our location that the sigh of relief, comes. And again, don't misunderstand me, please. Don't. I know that God's in control and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes perfect sense, and I see what you're saying. I mean, the physical the physical element of it, I mean, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You're ready for it. You just tense up and you just get ready for whatever happens. The spiritual side of it is, the Lord's in control. So if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. And, you're not going to change that.
Yeah, and I know where I'm going if something does happen to me.
That's right.
But that don't make the earthly part of me like, WTH, WTF, you
That's
know.
right. Yeah, I understand.
It's very, very difficult.
So swinging around back to video games, my forte, or at least I think so. I think I'm pretty decent at it. Do you kind of the same question really for this? To piggyback off of what you said about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you per se like video games because it's a gateway for some people, just at the end of the day after they get done doing, work or whatever they get done doing. Is that why you miss them, or do you miss them because you hear people talking about them and how much they have evolved? Because I mean, starting back, I mean, you can go back as far as like the Ataris playing Pong,
Which
just
I
a ball going side to side.
Mm-hmm.
And now, they have what they call, Fortnite, Call of Duty that brings so many different elements into gaming now. Is that what you miss? You just want to see how much it's expanded.
Well, kind of all of it. Again, I went to school for computer programming and computer networking, graduated with both of them. So I know how video games are created. Uh, and I miss, and you'll get this, I miss the release of playing, just letting the cares of the world go away, while I'm playing that game.
The immersive experience.
Yes.
I get that.
I get that now through listening to audiobooks, things like that. Because I mean, I've always enjoyed reading, but the video game aspect it's going to a different world in a different way. I'm not saying I would have played Call of Duty or Need for Speed or anything like that because I was more into like sports games. I would love to see how the graphics have evolved. And I still do play some games now, but they're games that are, made accessible for the blind. Uh, and I've had several. I have some apps on my phone that are accessible. Uh, but it's just not the same, Clint. It's just not. I mean, they're good, but at the same time, I'm missing the graphics. I'm missing really the interaction because there's not very many interactive games for the blind that I'm aware of anyway, to be able to connect with other people and talk while we play. And again, I say that there are some that I know about that I do play occasionally, but I I'd rather read now than to play a game because I know what I'm missing whenever I play a game. I know I'm missing the graphics. I know I'm missing the interaction because at one time I could see to play them, and I just simply can't now. So I won't say it makes me depressed because I mean I very rarely do get depressed, but it still does happen. But knowing what I'm missing and still playing it, it has a tendency to bother me more than probably what it should. But at the same time, if I want to play a game, I will.
That's right. And I know you said that you do play a lot of or some games, and I know of some in particular that you've played, and I know a lot of people are probably wondering what kind of games there are. So I'm just going to mention one that I know I personally witnessed him play is Wii bowling. Playing the Wii, that's a little bit accessible to him. I know it's an older gaming system, but again, people take things for granted, and that's something that you can't do nowadays.
Yeah. And a game that I play now that a lot of people will say is satanic, but again, I disagree. Anything can be bad for you depending on, what it is and the quantity that you do. Is I run tabletop games, and the most common one, the most widely known one is Dungeons and Dragons. And it is what you make. You can make it evil, but then again, going to a buffet, you can make that evil as well as a sin by gluttony. Not that I ever overeat. I mean, but that's to me. I look at it as I'm exercising my imagination, and I think I have a pretty good imagination. I think I can bring people into the world that I've created and make it fun for everybody involved.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. So, with all that being said, that was a two-parter question. So now that you've explained a little bit about, what you could see and what you cannot see now and all that
Mhm,
kind of tied together, the biggest question I'm sure a lot of people have, and I'm glad that Shannon brought this into her second part of the question here.
mhm.
If you could see again, what would you want to see? What would be the main thing that you wanted to see?
Before she passed, I would have loved to have seen Mama one last time. You know, before she got sick, because she was still Mama to me whenever she got sick, but I know she probably wouldn't have wanted to be seen like that. Um, if I could see again right now, as romantic as this sounds, and Clint, I'm not hitting on you at all. I would love to see the sunrise or the sunset again.
Hmm.
I would love to go overseas and see Stonehenge or something like that, the pyramids, something spectacular. Because as I can attest to, you never know when it's going to be taken away.
Yeah, and I mean, I can completely understand that. And that's a thing that a lot of people take for granted is just waking up and looking outside and seeing that sunset,
Hmm.
or about before they go to bed, see the sunrise, or just seeing their parents,
Yeah,
or their grandparents, even the younger generation now, they take that for granted, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm not one of them. When I was younger, when I was living with my parents, I was a young kid. I wanted to go out, do things, stay the
hmm,
night, play games, at friends' houses, and all that. But now that, again, like my dad passed, it's just you want to see them one more time,
yeah,
and you being sightless, you really never got to see your mom that much. You did when you were younger,
yeah.
but after that happened, you didn't get to see her. Well, now that, and I'm sighted, and now that my father's gone, I don't get to see him. So, just that one last time is what you could always ask for.
Yeah, and everybody says I'd love to talk to him one last time, and yeah, I'd love to talk to Mama one more time. But mostly for me, I'd want to see her one last time because, and while this memory is getting blurry with time, the only picture I can remember of her is a driver's license photo. You know, and it's getting really blurry, foggy, whatever you want to call it. And she was never proud of that photo. But then again, who is proud of their, driver's license picture? One other thing I'd really love to see, and this is really for my own peace of mind, is, and I've talked to you and Shannon about this before, is I'd love to see what I look like now.
You're a handsome young man.
Yeah, I don't appreciate the lie, but I appreciate you trying to help me feel better. But and like I said, I've talked to y'all about it. That's probably the biggest self-esteem thing that I have is thinking that I look like Frankenstein's monster. People tell me that I don't, but me not being able to see it, I feel the left eye closed. I feel the scars. I feel all of this stuff. And in my mind, it's like, dang, what truck hit you? you know, but that really bothers me. And I know it's probably not the case, but then again, I have been told that it is the case of the reason that I'm single. And I've talked to to a lot of people about it that, somebody said, "Oh, I know the reason that you're single. It's because of your face." But did it bother me? No. Did it help my self-esteem? No, it didn't. Not at all. But what I told the person after the fact
Helped your self-esteem.
yeah, I don't know what it did for them, but that bothers me is not being able to know what I look like.
Mm-hmm. And I get that as well. I do. I get that because sometimes, like if you're not you specifically, just if anybody's out to eat while you're taking a drink, let's go ahead and where do we get these from?
Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel drinks, cherry cola. This is
Mm.
what he brought me one of these for my birthday. So now we're trying to get together. I have one and he has one. So Cracker Barrel, thank you for this. I know it's not your brand, but we got it from you. So
And unfortunately, they have no more fried turkey.
But if anybody's out to eat or something like that, somebody could be like, "Hey, you got something, on your face or something." You can, most people pick up their cell phone real quick and hit the camera and look at their face, get it
Yeah.
off of there. And you don't have that luxury. Somebody's just got to tell you where it is, and hopefully you hit it. And if you hit it, you get it off of there. If you don't, then well, it's there.
I keep trying.
Exactly. So that's just the one thing again people take for granted.
It just really sucks. Like if I'm eating something with mayonnaise, that like you got some white stuff on your lip. Like I hope it doesn't look like what I think it looks like.
So, your mama loved her. She was a great woman.
Man, she was the best.
She was. But one thing, as you was talking about her, and brought up something that I really like. I like to sing, and I know a lot of people take this for granted, but grocery shopping.
Oh.
Your mama used to, every time, your mama, you and your mama walked into Walmart, she'd be right in front of the buggy, you'd be right there on the buggy, right behind her. And if she wanted something, you'd stop. You wanted something, she'd stop and she'd get it out, and like I said, people take that for granted. So how is that task for you now being sightless, and especially, well, without your mama, so how are you overcoming that?
Well, thankfully now Walmart has delivery. And I can get it delivered to the house for the cost that it would take, to tip the driver. And depending on the driver, they either get the tip or I struggle and find a way how to give them $0.00 because I have had deliveries left at neighbors' houses on multiple occasions.
When the nearest neighbor is like forever away from you.
Pretty much, yeah. Shopping has really changed for me, but I've also been really blessed to have you and Shannon, or Shannon and you, whatever correct English is. I mean, y'all have taken up where Mama left off. Carrying me to Walmart, or Shannon bringing me my Walmart order, complaining about, "Did you buy the whole store?" No, just half of it. But doing that, I can't really say that it's much of a drop off. The only drop off is that, it forces me to ask y'all. And, we discussed that in the last episode about asking for help. That's just one of the things that I don't know that I'll ever get fully over, and you've seen me, I've gotten a lot better about it, but I don't think I'll actually ever get over it. Because of how Mama raised me to put others first.
Yep, and we talked about that last episode as well.
Yeah, and I told Shannon last night, I don't know if she told you, but I know she, or at least I felt that she was asking about what I was looking for in order to come up with Christmas present ideas for me. Whether she was or not, that's what Mama would do, and I don't look at Shannon like she's Mama, but she reminds me so much of her that that's what she would have done. And I told her, and sent her a text like I sent you, thanking you for both of y'all for last night. I'd rather y'all spend the money on y'all, Oakley, or if y'all want to buy anything, buy Jade something. Don't get me anything. That's just that's just not in my personality.
And I understand that. I get that. But, you know, a lot of people, not just, you know, me or, you know, they, and I've said this before and I'll say it a lot, I'm sure, in this whole continuation of this podcast, but you to me are a regular person, you know, so I'm gonna treat you as such. You know, you're like a brother to me. You've done so much for me. You know, I'm always gonna be here for you, and I'm always gonna get you things. So you're definitely
Except,
gonna get a. I have tried. Listen, all the single ladies, right here. He's
oh, you
single.
can take my shirt off?
He's good. Got no, no, no,
Okay,
no,
okay.
no,
Different
different
podcast.
podcast. He's single. He's ready. Okay.
I'm
Uh,
ugly as sin, but I have a great sense of humor.
but yeah, I will get you something for Christmas for sure, and I'll probably take you grocery shopping if I need to.
Well, I had thought about cooking y'all Chinese for
There
Christmas.
you go, look at that. But grocery shopping, it was really neat to see you and your mom go in there, and it's been a pleasure taking you in there because it's really neat, you know, going in there and saying what you need, and then going to it and describing each thing because really, you know, a lot of people when they go grocery shopping, they know, hey, let's take mustard for instance. I don't know why mustard, but mustard.
Yeah, I like mustard.
But you go in there, you know, most people will say, okay, I know I want mustard, I want the Great Value or the Heinz mustard.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have to, or I take you in there and I have to, I want that to be understood. It's not like a chore.
Oh, you have to if Shannon tells you.
I love doing it for him. But you know, if I take him, you know, we go in there, I have to explain each mustard, and I get to learn myself, you know, what different mustards there are. Unless you just naturally know what you want, it's pretty cool. And you know, and we'll talk about this in another, you know, segment of another podcast, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's really neat to learn what else is out there yourself because you know you're just in such a routine. I need this exact thing, but you
Yeah.
can't do that. You know, you got to say, well, I want this, and then somebody like me wouldn't know what this is. I had to explain each certain item in the grocery store so you get to see so much of a
Yeah.
broader perspective.
And you get to learn all the cheap stuff because I very rarely buy name brands because I mean I have to take that into account because I am on a fixed income, you know, and the only name brand I'll really buy is like Mountain Dew and Coke.
You
You know,
heard that. You heard that Mountain Dew and Coke. You heard
yeah. Feel free to sponsor my drinking habit.
that.
And Surge. I want Surge back.
Surge.
Oh,
Man,
for
Surge.
Surge. But you know, it does add an extra layer of concentration, ain't the word. Contemplation. I don't think that's it either. But you have to think that you have to take that into account, you know, and I buy a lot in bulk, which is why Shannon asked me, did I buy the whole store? No, just the grocery part. You know, and what I did, and I did this yesterday, is I went ahead and made up my meals, and I have enough to last me through the end of the year now. So Shannon doesn't yell at me again, because you know how bad that is when she yells at us. You know, but you have to prepare so that you know what you have left.
That's yeah, and I get that and I understand that. And you know, not to go on any more of a tangent than we already have about grocery shopping.
No, this is our podcast. We can go on tangents.
But you know, it's just something I think people take for granted.
Yeah.
You know, just like the, you know, when we can go, I mean, honestly, we could go on for the rest of the day about different things, you know, about how people take things for granted. You know, and that's kind of what we're here to do in this podcast is to inform people, you
Yeah.
know, let them know what it is, how it is being sightless and somebody sighted helping the sightless, or just being there beside them through everything, you know, because you know you're independent, you don't need that much help, so we're just here with you, just chilling, right?
Yeah.
So, but one thing we wanted to kind of do in this podcast, and we've done a lot of it already, is kind of let you know how it is being sightless. But we're going to bring it down to more of a personal level starting this podcast, or this episode, I should say, and then move throughout the episodes with a part or a segment speaking about the wreck. So, We're not going to do the whole wreck, or I should say the whole, the whole instance, in one segment or one episode, I should say. We're going to spread it throughout. But today we'll start with the night of the wreck and listen to his start of it, or listen to his part of it, and then again, like I said in other episodes, we'll move on from there.
Because I've given my testimony, and the shortest one I've ever given was about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's cutting out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But are you ready?
So we're gonna hear the whole. I just want this. We're gonna hear the whole thing. So I want everybody to understand. We will hear the whole thing. It's just gonna be in different episodes. So if you want to hear what happens through this whole process, how everything's broke down, I'm talking about, as verbatim as he can, what he can remember. Keep listening to every episode, and you will put together all the pieces of how he became sightless, and what it was like through this whole process.
And you know how they can keep up with every episode?
By liking, subscribing to all of our different links, which now we have a YouTube. Now we're getting a TikTok. We're on Facebook now. So we're
everywhere.
We're getting everywhere. Really quick before he starts his story about the wreck, we appreciate everybody tuning in, watching, listening, going to YouTube and watching it. We have YouTube Shorts out there, and we've got, several likes on a lot of them. We appreciate that so much. We have an editor now, and I will mention them, when the time is right, maybe let you see them, say hi to them.
Give me a double Whopper, mayonnaise, and cheese.
Yeah. So we're moving up. We're getting there. We really want this podcast to skyrocket. So help us out a little bit.
And we're still looking for sponsors.
Still looking for sponsors. Today we're trying Cracker Barrel. So
yeah. Well, to begin with, I used to have nightmares of the wreck. Talking about it has helped me. I don't have them as much anymore, so that's a blessing. But it was November 25th of 2000. I'd been out with several friends. We had went to the mall in Valdosta, and I always called it Sabero's. I don't actually know how it was pronounced, but you remember the pizza place? Disgusting. And I've always hated cheese pizza, always, because it's not pizza to me. And we got a plain cheese pizza. And I think that's even more reason that I hate it now, because it was the last meal that I had before I had the wreck. But we had been out to the park at the old football field, where the rec fields are, not the new ones, but the old one. I think it's on Massey Post Road.
Well, yeah, yep.
And we were sitting out there in that little park, and I was laying on the slide looking up at the stars, and I've never really been one that liked looking at the stars, but it was like that night something said, this may be the last time you ever see them. So I was sitting there contemplating it, and my friend Scott asked if he could borrow the car to carry his girlfriend home. Yeah, no problem. When you're a kid, you're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And you came back, and we were heading out home. I was carrying Dawn back to her house. Scott was going to pick up his vehicle and all of that. Needless to say, we never got there. Heading out on Antioch Road, and I smoked at the time, and I don't want to sponsor a cigarette, so keep that down. But it was, you remember Salem's in the green pack? That's what I was smoking at the time because of Dennis, because I worked at Dorsey's, and that's what he smoked, and he was one of the coolest dudes that I could think of at the time. Really, really looked up to him, and still do, because I wouldn't have minded opening up my own butcher shop either, because I love to eat, and I really enjoyed working in the meat market. But we were heading home, and I can't remember. I want to think I dropped the lighter, the old 19-cent 19-cent seed clear through lighters. You know the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, they're like $2 now.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they're getting up there.
That's why I don't smoke. But anyway, it got dropped. It was probably my fault. Most things are. And I remember saying, "Don't reach between my feet. I'll get it." And I'm going 35 miles an hour. Again, when you're a kid, you think you're invincible, invulnerable, whatever kind of words you want to use. Well, I bent down to pick it up and took my eyes off the road. And I was going, like I said, 35 miles an hour, and I hit a 2-foot deep pothole, which busted the tire. I'm not sure if that's when the front axle came out, but I was driving a 97 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. It was white. Like I said, I don't know if that ripped out the front axle. I know it at least blew the tire, and we started spinning, and the absolute last thing that I ever saw was Dawn screaming. Then I hit the bridge and the airbag came out. And like I said, the last visual thing that I ever saw was her face screaming and hearing her screams. For the longest time, that really bothered me. And it wasn't so much that I got hurt, but knowing that I caused others to get hurt bothered me, still bothers me. But I hit the bridge, the airbag came out, and I was 305 at the time, and now I'm down to 268. Thank you.
He got the reserve. He got the reverse, by the way.
I got that reversed. How did I get that reversed?
You were 305. You're 368 now.
No, I'm 268, sir. I was hoping my scale said 255, but maybe it was just being nice that day. And the car, the way I describe it, you remember the skateboarder Tony Hawk, how he could ride the rails with his skateboard?
Yeah.
And by the way, that was a pretty cool video game too.
It was.
Oh man, I never got to play the full version. I always played the demo at Walmart. Mom, I'm going grocery shopping. Okay, I'm going to electronics.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what all kids do.
You're right.
And I rode the rail with the car, and then it started flipping once it got to the end of the bridge railing and threw me out on the first flip. And I'm sure you've seen that area. I think you've gone by that bridge or rode on it, and threw me out into the woods. Everybody says that I hit a tree, but I didn't. I landed in vines, and it caught me and lowered me to the ground. It totally smashed up my face, as you can tell by looking at me. The airbag came out at 300 miles an hour. I was 305. So the point of impact was 605 pounds of pressure, which was my face. Totally pulverized the left side of my face. Whenever they went to put the metal plates in, they had to take a medical vacuum cleaner basically and suck out the fragments. But it threw me out. I landed there and it knocked me out. But I remember coming to, I can't remember if I heard people and that's what brought me out or what it was, because they couldn't find me. And I remember saying, "Tell Mama that I'm going to be okay. Tell Mama that I'm going to be okay." And they found me. They carried me to the Adel Hospital, who had an emergency room at the time. They were really good about putting on Band-Aids. And it's kind of funny because Mama described to me what I looked like after I had the wreck, at the hospital. Do you remember the big, I call them Christmas hams that were wrapped up in the kind of like muslin? But
yeah,
she said, "That's exactly what your head looked like." And I remember thinking, well, I got a sausage, but totally different podcast there. And I mean, my head was swollen. Still don't think it shrunk, but that's just me. And she right then she grabbed my head as they were pushing me out of the Ada hospital to get on life flight, that she was going to stick to me like super glue. She was going to stay there with me, and from that day forward, me and her always said, up until March 14th of this year, because she died on the morning of the 15th, we always either called each other and said, I love you, whatever, say +1 super glue at night, or, we texted. One way or another, it got said. And that has probably been the hardest thing for me, in reliving the wreck and talking about it. And that's why I have the tattoo, on my right, what do you call that? Side of your arm. And I think yeah, it's got a
not one that neither one of us know.
Yeah, because that's how much it meant to me, and it's like I'm still getting it to this day, because even though I can't see it, I know it's there. And thanks to Ronnie for doing the tattoo there. Shameless plug, Ronnie. Cutting it off the next tattoo price. Check him out. He does good work. But going from the last thing that I ever saw, I bet you I had nightmares of it for at least months, if not, on into years. And it was the scream, but I think the scream, and also knowing that they put their life in my hands and I let them down. And it's getting me emotional now, because you've known me for a while. I'm all about responsibility. And knowing that I let them down, and they got hurt because of my ineptitude really bothers me. But we'll end this part with me saying that I was life flighted to Albany to, is it Phoebe Putney?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
Phoebe Putney there, where I was for 7 or 8 days. But we'll stop the talking about the wreck for that part.
So now we know. So basically, you told everybody about the wreck. So now everybody's heard about the wreck. That's the knot of the wreck. So now our next episode, we're going to be in Phoebe Putney in Albany. That's where we'll be at our next episode. That's a lot of good insight, especially for people who don't understand how you became blind or why you were blind. And for a lot of the questions, were you blind your whole life? And, that's just going to answer a lot of, I think, questions that people have.
Yeah.
Just that little bit of insight, and I think they're going to look forward to seeing more of how you coped with a lot of things that happened during the wreck, on down further episodes. But so enough of the wreck. So let's move on to something, a burning question that may be in some people's minds, not mine, but some people's.
It's in your mind.
So this is not a viewer question. This is just kind of something that me and you talked about and discussed. Something that just brings a little funny, funny story, funny humor to the podcast. I'll just say it. I hate tags on my clothes. Right? I hate tags in the back of my shirt, tags in my shorts. I hate tags. Right?
And I love it.
But I take mine for granted, and so. How do you know to put your underwear on the right way?
That's easy. I don't wear underwear.
Oh, looks like we're going to cut the podcast there.
Well, guys' underwear has the, what do you call it? Crotch flap up front?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that sounds appropriate. Really.
Yeah. Or like if it's boxers, usually you have the button up front.
That's right.
And my thongs, I know that little string goes into the back.
No, it's different podcast.
Well, sometimes I wear thongs when I want to get sexy for myself. Calm down, sir. But whenever they don't have that, which is very rare, you can somewhat feel the tag if you really, really concentrate. You can feel it. But mostly, I go by the flap, and I actually do have some underwear now that can go either way. So it's like, I don't care.
Yeah,
Ain't nobody gonna see it.
that's true.
I can't see it. Uh, but it's something simple like that, that like you said, you take the tags for granted. Me, I love the tags because it lets me know exactly where the back is. Like I don't let me see. This one doesn't have one that I feel.
Let me see. Nope, no tag. I mean, but you got it on the right way, but no tag.
Yeah, but see, and that's what I'm going to show you. You see this seam
Mm-hmm.
right there?
Yep.
I know that goes in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Barely, but
But it
enough
does.
to let me know. And of course, well, some shirts have like pictures or graphics on the front and back, or vice versa. But I usually go by the shoulder seams when it doesn't have a tag.
That's right. I understand that. So if you're listening, don't take your tags for granted. Always know where your tags are. That's right. All you mattress tag puller people, supposed to be on the mattress.
I thought it was illegal to pull the tag. That's
So
what I said on that documentary, Garfield and Friends.
no, that's true. You're right. You're right. So that's interesting. That's like I said, a lot of key takeaway from that one. So a couple of key takeaways that I've had from this episode, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about now. Number one, being able to see again what you want to see again, and I understand that's your mother, and I think a lot of people, or most people, would probably say the same thing, because a lot of people that are sighted say the same thing. I wish I could see my parents one more time, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big question that a lot of people, I'm sure, had to ask.
A very deep question.
Yes, that's a very, very deep
and
question.
good question.
Video games, it's a bigger part of people's lives. People, especially young generations, they love video games. That's what they're growing up to, unfortunately, nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not their fault, that they're taking it for granted, but they shouldn't, because you never know, kind of like you did. You loved it, and then all of a sudden, one day it was just gone.
Well, it's like the Counting Crows song. I don't think it's Long December or Big Yellow Taxi, one of those. You don't know what you got until it's gone.
That's exactly right. And then, I mean, just like grocery shopping, a lot of people are like, man, this place is packed, especially if it's like Walmart or something on a weekend. People are just so angry when they're in there. They're just pushing their buggies into people, trying to get around, trying to mess up everything they can to get to what they need.
I didn't do it on purpose.
But, that's just something that you do now that, you need help with. So, walking around by yourself, with a buggy probably wouldn't benefit.
No.
So that's a lot. Again, people take that for granted.
Yeah, and you and Shannon can attest to this last night whenever we went out to eat. If it's really loud in there, yeah, I'm totally blind.
That's right, because you depend a lot on your hearing.
Yeah, and how many times did I ask y'all to repeat stuff last night?
Wow, that's probably the most I've actually ever heard you ask to repeat something.
Because I couldn't hear y'all. Mm-hmm. And Oakley was talking my ear off.
I thought it was just because you're ignoring me. No, but and then we talked a little bit about the wreck. So if you missed that, just go a little bit back into this episode. Just rewind a little bit, or review it, and you'll hear it. That's kind of an emotional spot for Bubba, and I've definitely noticed that talking to him, not just for this, but before, when I was first getting to know him and asking him about everything. It is a very emotional part of everything, and I believe it would be for me too, especially reliving some of that over and over again for so long. We won't talk much more about that. That's just, I know it's an emotional part, but we will be talking about it in later episodes.
Yes.
And then for the lighthearted section today, our funny segment, underwear the right way.
Or not at all.
No, not at all, I guess. But we did talk a little bit. We did learn a little bit about your shirts. That was really neat. About the seams, the farther back it is, it's more the correct way to put it on.
And I showed them both visually and unvisually.
You did.
What do you think about
you did the sided and sideless part. So that's really neat. So we're gonna encourage y'all, please like, subscribe, whatever you can to get this podcast heard. Again, we're here for you. We want you again to understand that this is more of an informational, I guess that's how you want to say it, informational podcast, maybe
documentary,
maybe partial documentary, part informational. Just I don't know,
in part comedy. There's really no category that fits. There's no category that fits me.
Yeah, but we're just here to so people can hear Bubba's story, and hear a little bit about my insight on his story and how we get through some of the things that
somewhat day-to-day stuff
that people have questions about. How do you do this? Why do you do this? When do you do this? Why do you do this for him? How do you do this for him? Just things that honestly normal people would ask about being sighted.
Why do you put up with him?
Exactly. Certain things just like that. So we love the support. We've got Sean a lot of support already. I know we've got a couple of people that are pretty, I know at least of 2 people that are at least 16 hours away, several states away, that have actually messaged us and asked us about the podcast. So it's already getting out there. And if you can, share it on all your socials. Take the shorts that we post, send it to somebody in a message. Maybe they'll watch it and want to hear more of the podcast or watch more of the podcast, whatever platform you're looking at or listening to it on.
I'm personally hoping that there's somebody who's a single white female or single female, or as long as it's female, biologically female, by the way. But before we close out, Clint, I give you a lot of crap about forcing me to do this, but me again, I wouldn't do it unless I wanted to, and it's something that needs to be put out there. And I'm not saying there's not other people who have my perspective, but if they are, I'd love to meet them, because there's, again, nobody like me that I've ever come across. So thank you for helping me get my story out there, encouraging me to do it, and hosting this with me.
Oh, of course. And as you said, there's people like you out there. They're not going to be exactly like you, obviously, but when you say people like you, I know you're, basically pretty much talking about sightless people.
Yeah.
And, and if you are, like I said last episode, and I'll say it again too, remember, there's nothing wrong with you. You can be great. Always strive for the best. We're here for you. There's a lot of people that are here for you. They'll help you, hopefully, let me say this, hopefully, if you are sightless and you're looking for something, someone, somehow, reach out, talk to us. Hopefully we can help find you a Clint. Or somebody, or a Cody that helps Bubba out. There's several people that Bubba can definitely call and count on, and call us, or message us, reach out to one of us and just, mention, what you're going through or what you need help with, and we can definitely give you some insight on how we get through our day to day, being together as much as we are, sighted, sightless, all that good stuff. And we'll be here for you. And there's a lot of people in the world that'll be here for you. You're great, and keep being great.
Well, thank you. Oh, you're talking about these?
I was talking to the people we're looking at right now.
Okay. Or the people I'm not looking at anybody.
The people I'm looking at right now.
Okay.
So that's that's takeaways, and again, we appreciate all you do for us and all you continue to listening, watching the podcast. We appreciate it. Thank you.
And again, if you have any questions, you can submit them to sighted@gmail.com. You can post on the Facebook page that we have set up. I guess you can comment on TikTok or whatever that thing is.
TikTok, YouTube, and YouTube Shorts. I don't know if YouTube Shorts was, same thing with the commenting, but you can comment on whatever platform you're on.
So what do you call a regular YouTube video? Pants?
Sure. From now on, we'll call it pants.
Okay, that works for me. But no question is off limits. I'm an open book. Anything you want to know, regardless of how personal it may be, I will answer both truthfully and honestly.
Be prepared though if you
Yes.
ask.
If you ask a question, you will get the answer.
Mhm.
The only time I may not be able to answer on a podcast if it possibly goes against like platform guidelines.
That's right. That's right. We're definitely trying to get our word out there, so we don't want to go against any guidelines. So please, if you have a question that may go against guidelines, still submit it. We'll look through it, and if it's something that he has to answer personally or I have to answer personally, we definitely will, and we'll get back to you with an answer on that.
Sí, señor.
No bueno.
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
But I can tell you're not as nervous this time.
No, I'm ready for this now. We're good. We're getting this word out there.
You know you're not getting paid, right?
Oh, well, I'll see y'all later.
I'll hear you later.
I'm Clint.
And I'm Richard.
And this is Side of the Sightless.
See ya.
See ya.